We invite you to join us Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Lowe's Motor Speedway live flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the NASCAR Banking 500 here, the only chase race under the lights, and it all begins with NASCAR Countdown. Jimmy Johnson, a 5-time winner here at this racetrack. He is the points leader. Track is drying. We're trying to get the cars on the way here momentarily as soon as we get some of this moisture out of down in turns 1 and 2. Well, we've analyzed the driver's handwriting. We've also taken a look at their helmets, but how about their animals and their pets? You know, everybody knows that man's best friend is a dog, but in this sport, dog's best friend happens to be one certain driver.
In a Sprint Cup race, NASCAR's Greg Biffle likes to gas and go. But off the track, at his North Carolina home, Greg and his wife Nicole enjoy a nice long pet stop with their big bad boxer, Foster.
And knowing how much we love Foster, we wanted to be able to help animals, not only in North Carolina, but across the country.
Give me 5, bud. Give me 5.
So in 2005, the Biffles started a national foundation for animal care. And to raise money, the foundation produces a yearly NASCAR pet calendar.
We felt like that would be a great opportunity for the fans to see, you know, behind the scenes with the driver, with their pet. And it's been a tremendous success.
The 2010 edition is out, and it features the dogs and cats who make these top drivers feel lucky to get lapped, like Casey Mears and his pal Nash.
This guy, he doesn't know if it's a bad day or a good day for you. You know, he's just always happy to see us. You kind of forget about your bad day for a little bit. It's perfect. I mean, for our lifestyle and you know, going back and forth to the racetrack, he's easy to throw in a little bag, take on the plane, and then you got your little buddy at the track.
She travels with me almost every week.
For Denny Hamlin, it's always happy hour when Missy follows him around, even though she doesn't always like to follow orders.
Missy, sit. Anytime I can go directly from my house to the racetrack, she'll come with me, which is probably about 75% of the time.
Jimmy Johnson's dogs Maya and Roxy clearly delight him and his wife Chandra. And Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s pet Killer is the offspring of Greg Biffle's dog Foster, who now battles for pole position in his household with Gracie and Savannah, a rescue dog.
Come here, Savannah. All right. It's nice to have them at the track. You know, so many times you get done with a, you know, qualifying, or you get done with practice or whatever, and you get an opportunity to go back to the bus, and they're so excited when they see it.
The money the calendar raises for the Biffles Foundation goes to fund shelters that don't euthanize their animals.
It's fun to be able to help support the other drivers in the circuit and their charities and their foundations and what they work for. So it's just a nice thing that we can do, and we're proud to do it.
Meanwhile, single guy Tony Stewart says he doesn't feel so lonely with his kitty cats Wyatt and Wiley waiting for him at home.
Especially those of us that don't have children, this is what we have to look forward to at the end of the day. I'm more than content being by myself in the bus as long as these two are here. Definitely, I treat the pets better than the girlfriends, which would be why I'm without a girlfriend.
And there are some dogs that are pets that belong to someone who is also a big-time animal lover. And who would that be? Hey, Timmy.
Hey, how's it going? Hey guys, this is Taffy, Jake, and Katie, named after Jake Elder. My son named Taffy as my son came back from the fair many years ago. And Katie, I'm the love of her life. Imagine that. Producers and good dogs. That's all I need.
Thank you, Tim. You really get to learn a lot about these drivers and the fact that they're so intense on the racetrack, but they're really giving and loving away from the track. And Greg Biffle involved in that rescue program to try to help animals all over the country. And all these drivers having pets. How about Tony's cats, huh?
Yeah, and gosh, you go in his motorhome and they're running wide open. It's a show of its own in there, but a lot of fun and just a real show to get in there with Tony. You're trying to talk and they're just flying across in front of you and just having a big time.
And I rode with Greg Biffle up to Kansas on his airplane, and he had all 3 of those boxers in there with him, and they absolutely love Greg. I mean, they just flock right to him. As a matter of fact, Greg got up to go to the restroom, moved out of the way that one of the dogs, and that dog was looking all over that airplane, started looking and looked out the window on the wing to see if he was outside. They really love those animals. It's really, like you say, you can see how soothing it is for Greg. He loves those dogs, and they love him.
Yeah, and they do a lot of good things. I think that's the most important thing is these drivers. And, you know, Ryan and Chrissy Newman are another couple couple that do a lot. I know in the county that I live in, Catawba County, not far from here, they're part of the Humane Society there and helping a lot. They've donated a lot. They've built a brand new place there, and they've done so much. So there's a lot of the drivers and their wives and families that do a lot around the country, and it's really nice to see.
You know, animals are a pretty good judge of character, and that says a lot about who these guys are. So what we're being told now on the racetrack is they're going to park the dryers. They're bringing the jet dryers in. They're going to crank these cars up and let them go out and run a few laps under the yellow, under caution, to be able to tiptoe and make sure we can get some heat in this racetrack.
Okay, that caution light might be out, but we'll just see how slow they go. I've seen that before. They say we're going to run under caution, and the first lap they come by, it was wide open.
Yeah, and it was always tough for me, too. You've got a wet pit road that you're going out there and trying to get up to speed. You have to be careful not to spin the tires. You can see they haven't worked on pit road at all. Montoya says he's going to wait a little bit and let some of these other guys try this.
Now, NASCAR is going to be on the radio with a number of these drivers as they come around, and also talking to some of the people. The crew chiefs are up on the haulers back in the garage area, and they're going to be looking for a thumbs up, a verbal and a visual thumbs up from these guys when they can lift the yellow flag and let them go green, let them go full speed.
Yeah, the biggest thing they can do is look at that monitor and see how fast these guys are running around here. They won't need to get anything else.
And when they pull the caution lights, Greg can't go any faster. He's wide open right now.
Well, as we watch Greg Biffle now running pretty good laps here, let's go down and check in with Dave in the garage.
Well, Doc, we know it's been a disappointing chase so far for Brian Vickers in the 83 team. They haven't led a lap yet, and they've had a lot of disappointment on the racetrack. They've got more tonight, and it's in the garage area. Brian's been sitting in the car. It will not start. He keeps flipping over the switch for him, and they've spent about 15 minutes here trying to diagnose the problem with the 83, but here it sits. Now, we're going to go down to Tim Brewer in the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim, what is the pathway from starter switch to motor? What's involved and what could be wrong with it?
Well, first of all, when the ignition switch and the starter switch sitting right beside each other on the dash, but you've got a solenoid sitting on the dash also, and that is just a link that triggers the starter. And when you're trying to trigger the starter drive to go in and engage the flywheel, but changing the starter, that's no problem. You got 2 3/8 bolts, you got one wire running to it. It's relatively easy to change if that is the problem.
Hey, Tim, I got one other question for you. You know, when the battery died on my 73 Duster one time, we rolled it down a hill and popped the clutch and drove it to the repair center. Can these guys even run without a starter?
Yes, they can run without the starter. All they have to do is, just like you said, get a running start, push the car, it'll crank, and that's what I'd be doing right now, because a guy like Petrie and myself, we don't care if the thing doesn't start. We can push it and get it going. What we want right now is on-track practice time.
Thank you, Tim. That's what they're getting, as you see the 83 still back there waiting. And now they were waiting for a thumbs up from the driver. And let's see, watch Greg Biffle giving the flagman. Yeah, there he is, giving him a thumbs up. And now they have lifted the yellow flag, and they are soaring by. Mark Martin, his guys, has already run a lap over 187 miles an hour. And a moment ago, these two guys got together a little bit, a little rubbing there with the 31 and 42, Montoya and Burton.
I think it's probably a situation that you don't want to get out of the groove. You see maybe Jeff Burton getting a little bit loose. Montoya wasn't ready for that. Got into the back of Jeff Burton.
Yeah, it looked like Jeff was trying to be a little cautious with this track being green, and Montoya was ready to go.
Yeah, he was ready to go. Mark Martin jumped out there. He had no problems with this racetrack at all.
I mean, the first lap on the racetrack, he ran a 28.85. That's confidence right there.
That's over 187 miles an hour, and the all-time track record is only 193, and that was a few years ago.
That's all he's run, too. Mark Martin has only run one lap on the racetrack.
Now, how would you like to be Mark Martin, knowing that you finished in the top 10 in all 4 chase races? You finished the top 5 in 3 of the 4, and you're losing ground.
Yeah, it's been very impressive what Jimmy Johnson done. You got Montoya and Martin both with a 3.5 finishing average in the chase so far.
Here's a 9-car of Casey Kane, who is a 3-time winner at this racetrack. He won both races in 2006 and then one in the spring of 2008. Let's ride along with Casey.
Yeah, as we come off turn 2, very fast exit of that corner, especially with this racetrack being as cool as it is right now. This is a difficult entry into turn 3. You want to stay out wide, but you need to get right to the bottom. Fastest way around. These guys aren't going to be out of gas very much tonight. Off of turn 4, it really flattens out. You have to make sure you give yourself enough room right there coming out of 4. Here might be the most tricky part of this racetrack, your entrance into turn 1. if you can hit this, you can really make a lap when we get to making qualifying efforts tonight.
DJ, this track, you know, if you look at it from the grandstand, it looks pretty wide, but when you look at it from where the driver's sitting, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of room here as far as moving around in different lanes.
No, there's not a lot of room, but yeah, I think that it gives you a feeling of really security because you don't see all of that space out there. You know where you have to run, but you get in tight situations, you realize there isn't a lot of room out there to avoid something.
47, already the top of the charts, Marcus Ambrose, and
188.5 miles an hour.
And he will be our in-race reporter here on Saturday night, so we'll be able to visit with Marcus Ambrose, pose some questions to Marcus, and talk about the kind of year he's had thus far. And boy, Montoya pulls back in the garage area and says, I think he's a little shocked, surprised, and maybe feeling relieved that he didn't have more damage than what could have possibly happened out there a moment ago with the front of his car in the back of the 31.
As you can see, there is quite a bit of damage there. They've got some work to do on this race car before they can get back out.
Yeah, he's busted that front fascia. We're going to have to repair that. Can't see the struts for the splitter.
You'd have to think that they had got bent probably a little bit in that. And this will probably put them into going into qualifying trim sooner than they wanted to, Andy.
Yeah, they were going to try to run some race trim runs, but this is definitely going to set them back.
Let's show you again what happened just a moment ago here in the opening laps of this practice coming out of the turn.
Hey, see, look, I just think that Jeff Burton was trying to take it easy right here. He wasn't wide open like a lot of drivers were when they went out there right off the bat.
Got pretty loose getting in the corner and just lost a lot of momentum in the 42. I can't do anything but get the hell out of the way, and he still ran over us.
You could hear Burton talk about his car got really loose getting into the corner, and he wasn't carrying a lot of speed, and Montoya caught him very quickly, but Jeff just wasn't comfortable with his car.
So some work to do down in the garage area for the guys in the 42 team. Here's the 2 car of Kurt Busch, and he dropped a spot in the point standings after even though he had a top 10 finish last week at California Speedway, he's back to 6th in the points.
Yeah, he battled for that finish that he got last week. His car didn't ever seem to really get where he wanted it, but he still made a pretty decent day out of it and kept himself in contention.
He has one win this year coming in Atlanta on the sister track, the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Same kind of banking, 24 degrees in the turns.
Tony Stewart moved up to 4th at 28.75 with a couple of laps there.
And again, the last time we were on a 1.5-mile racetrack, you heard Shannon tell you, Tony pretty pleased about how they performed at Kansas when they led 37 laps and got the win.
Yeah, check out who's up on top of the board right now. Mike Bliss in this 71 ran a 28.62, and he's on top.
That is the Kevin Buckler-owned car. We talked about the little NASCAR team that could. 10 people, borrowed engines, and borrowed race cars. Practice session ongoing here for the NASCAR Sprint Cup cars, Lowe's Motor Speedway. We've already had 37 cars out on the racetrack. Here's Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to dial in his number 88 Chevy.
Man, they had a great run going last week. Unfortunately, a little contact towards the end of that race created then a lot of contact on the front straightaway. Come to find out, he and Ryan Newman had gotten together after the restart and had cut his left rear tire down, and he was having an issue, and then things kind of stacked up and had a lot of cars involved in.
Yeah, when you got somebody in the middle of that line on restart with everybody chomping at the bit, and you've got a problem like a left rear tire going down, that can cause a big problem, and it did.
And some of the folks behind him thought the 19 car, Elliott Sadler, had gotten into Dale Jr., but as soon as the race was over, Dale Jr. wanted everybody to know he had a tire going down, and it wasn't a situation where he got hit from behind by Elliott.
Yeah, and they were all hitting each other. Elliott, the 19 did hit him. He was getting hit by the 17, and the 17 was probably getting hit by someone else. It's just a chain reaction. And as we said last week, sometimes just racing accidents happen, and that was one of them.
We talk about the strength of Hendrick Motorsports and the team this year, and I tell you, it's been a tough year for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Look at the other guys and the wins they've gotten. and the points positions, and it just seems like every time Junior starts getting a good run going, something happens. He ended up with the contact a few races ago with the 00 car, in the situation last week where he ends up having a tire cut down, so he just can't catch a break.
Now, you're seeing a marked improvement with the race team, though. I think they've been competing a lot better, and that has to be a good sign for those guys and what they're looking to do. I think I was probably the problem. I put him on my fantasy team last week for ESPN, and that was probably the reason that Earnhardt had problems, as we see problems here with the 09.
Yeah, Sterling Marlin's having it's like maybe an engine problem. Yeah, back to the Dale Earnhardt Jr.
09 had an engine problem down the back.
You know, he's had fast race cars. I mean, they're sitting right here in the top 5 so far in this practice, and it seems like their cars are almost as fast or sometimes faster than his teammates, but he just can't seem to close the deal at the end of these races.
Sterling driving for James Finch in the 09 car. It's the Finch car that won at Talladega. By the way, that'll have Brad Keselowski back in that 09 car. We go back to Talladega in a few weeks. Of course, Sterling Marlin, who has had a lot of success at this racetrack over the years driving, and now the caution on the racetrack because of the apparent engine issue with that car. Well, there's the 83 car. They did get it fired, and he's out on pit road, and we'll update his situation and hopefully get some more practice underway here momentarily. Lots of coverage coming your way from Lowe's Motor Speedway over the weekend. We've got NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Happy Hour tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern Time. And, of course, live flag-to-flag coverage, the NASCAR Banking 500 Saturday on ABC at 7 o'clock Eastern, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. You want some NASCAR Nationwide Series action? We'll have qualifying and the race for you tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time and 7:30 Eastern Time, both on ESPN2. And how about sort of settling up what's going to happen throughout the weekend with NASCAR Now, presented by Wrangler. That is tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. So lots of motorsports coverage coming your way from here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, just outside of Charlotte. We're under caution here. There's the trail of oil, and there's some liquid coming out from underneath the 09 car. They're pushing the Sterling Marlin car back in the garage area. They'll back it in and make an engine change. Well, let's get an update on the 14 car of Tony Stewart. Shannon.
Well, Doc, we heard Tony Stewart say at the start of the practice session that he was going to work on qualifying trim only. So as he sits here in the garage, the team is right now putting on some fresh tires, putting a little more tape on the nose, some fuel in the car. He also said he would like this 14 car snugged up just a little bit. So they have made a track bar adjustment and some air pressure on this car. But guys, we talked about Tony Stewart being very optimistic coming back to the 1.5 miles. Well, there's another reason why he should be optimistic. This is the same car that he drove to Victory Lane in Kansas. These guys worked really hard to get it turned around because it's that good. Dave?
Greg Biffle getting ready to make his second attempt at a qualifying run on track. His car waiting in line there. One thing they did while they were down here is they put more tape on the grill. They closed off that area some more. And I talked to one of the motor guys and just asked him, you know, when it's cold like this, I mean, how much good data do you have? We practice so often, it seems like, in hot temperatures, or at least, you know, nice ambient temperatures. This is cold. He said, well, we got enough, but you kind of still learn as you go here. And they realized after that first run that they could definitely tape up the 16, get a little more downforce, get a little more heat in that motor.
Thanks, Dave. It's amazing how much just like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch of tape will do in terms of the handling on a race car.
It makes a big difference in downforce, which changes everything, but it's a lot of speed, too. I mean, it reduces the drag. It puts more pressure on the nose. It's everything in the direction you want to go for speed, and you always try to tape it up as much as the engine temperatures will allow.
So you get a little more of a break on tape on a cool night like this because you can almost close it off.
Yeah, you don't need much of an opening tonight. I mean, especially if we're running just a couple of laps. If they cool the engine all the way down with a cool down unit, you could probably tape it completely up 100% and make that one lap you need to make with absolutely no opening.
Yeah, maybe with cranking down of the track bar or a little bit of wedge in that thing too, because as you said, it plants that nose a little bit more. Then you have to get the back end of the car into the racetrack to make you a little more secure. As we heard Shannon talking about, Tony Stewart wanted his snugged up a little bit.
Well, thus far in an abbreviated practice session, Mike Bliss. How about the impressive performance there by the 71 car? Bliss atop the speed charts. Ambrose is second. Ryan Newman third. Robbie Gordon is fourth. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. in just a few laps, the 88 car, is fifth overall in this session. So these guys turning up the wick pretty quickly here, even though we've only been to track in a few minutes.
Yeah, not surprised to see Ryan Newman up there. I was reading a while ago. Ryan Newman has been here to make 15 qualifying attempts. 12 of those times he's qualified in the top 5. So I think he knows how the feel that he's looking for, and he knows how to go around here fast.
And he's got 8 poles in 15 tries. I mean, that's over half the races.
And 3 of the last 4 times we have qualified here, Ryan Newman has sat on the pole. So that's pretty impressive. There's a look at the practice thus far. You see Mike Bliss up there atop the charts. So Paul Menard is there. Joe Nemechek, a very small operation, running his own car. Tony Stewart trying to get his snugged up. And Sam Hornish Jr. continuing to be more and more impressive as this season goes on in that 77 car. Track has been cleaned up and cleared, and now they have told the cars to fire up and head back out there. So the NASCAR Sprint Cup guys will get back on the racetrack. And if you just joined our coverage, we've had drizzling rain most of the day. It is a cool evening here. Temperatures right now in the upper 40s, supposed to be down in the lower 40s. And the lower the temperature right now, the higher the speed.
You get a lot more grip with a cold racetrack. And already the practice speeds are higher than the pole speed was here in the spring.
I think the thing that you have to do in this situation is find that maximum grip with these tires, and that depends a lot on the air pressure as much as anything. A track like this might allow you to run a little bit more air pressure to maximize that grip, probably for just one lap, and I think that you can see higher speeds just as what we've started out seeing here.
Saw Mark Martin a moment ago in the 5 car. He is a 4-time winner at Lowe's Motor Speedway. His last win coming in the spring of 2002. Martin's first win, in fact, 3 of his 4 wins have come here in the fall. His first win was in 1992. There are 5 drivers entered this weekend who weren't born yet when Mark won his first race.
Well, you just watched the fastest lap that's been run so far right there. Mark Martin, 28:38. It's 190 miles an hour.
And here's the 83 car. We told you, and Dave Burns was telling you about what was going on back in the garage area. They were having trouble getting it fired, and we have been told it was a solenoid. They had to replace a solenoid there to be able to get the starter to kick off the engine, and now he is on the racetrack.
I figured Dave Burns told him how he pushed off his duster, and that's what they did.
33 car. That is Clint Boyer. There's Clint. Differing paint schemes. Boy, these cars really stand out under the lights at night.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to have these night races. I think it makes everything look a little more spectacular. Even when I was in the driver's seat, I thought things looked a little more spectacular. But watching these races at night, these great paint jobs and paint schemes they have on them, just makes things a little more exciting and spectacular. I'm sure they're going to be Saturday night.
Oh, gosh, I got to believe they are. We talked about teams, Andy, the Richard Childress Racing team, and everybody was shocked that they didn't have a car in the chase, and they have worked so hard, and I think they're starting to see some dividends paid off. Last week, they had drivers. Boyer finished 9th, Harvick finished 10th, Mears finished 11th, and Jeff Burton probably would have finished 12th or 13th. He had not been involved in that chain reaction crash late. So they have all of their cars for RCR would have had a top 15 finish.
They really have made some headway. And I heard Gil Martin, the crew chief for Kevin Harvick, this week talking about how they had just gotten off on the wrong foot on some things, and how if you do that, you have to commit so much ahead of time to these cars that you're going to race with the certification process that we have now that the cars have to go through, that if you do go the wrong direction, it takes a while to turn that ship. I mean, you have to go back and redesign and rethink everything, and then you have to start sending those things back through the certification process and back through the fab shop, and it takes a while to get that ship kind of righted when you are going in the wrong direction. But they have done that, and RCR seems to be right on the right path now.
Yeah, you talked about those finishes. 11th was about the worst that Casey Mears could have done. He unfortunately got in the situation he stayed out on some tires as some of the others got tires. He ran great in the top 7 or 8 the last half of that race.
They were all chasing this guy in the last half of that race at California. Jimmy Johnson now on the racetrack at a place they almost wanted to change the name of this place to Johnsonville, because Jimmy had won 4 in a row, won both races in 2004 and 2005, and also had won in 2003. So a 5-time winner here at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
This thing looks fast right there. I mean, it looked like he didn't even lift down in turns 1 and 2 and just hugging the bottom of the racetrack.
We'll see how he compares to Mark Martin's 28:38. Well, it's a little faster, 28:30. 800's faster than Mark.
28:30, that's P1.
And let's go back and update the 42 car. Juan Pablo Montoya involved in that shunt when he got into the back of the 31 car, and they had to make some repairs. Shannon?
Yeah, guys, I spoke with Brian Patty, crew chief for Juan Pablo Montoya. He was walking through the garage just as Juan was pulling out, and I asked him if they got all that front damage fixed, and he shrugged and said, good enough. Pretty important for these guys to get out there and get some laps right now, huh?
They got a big Band-Aid on the front of it, DJ.
Yeah, and the good thing about in fixing that now is they can just kind of tape over it. They didn't need that part of the grill opening for tonight. They're going to tape over that anyway, so they didn't have to do quite as much repair work as if they were trying to get ready for the race.
Track time much more important than cosmetics right now for these guys.
He went out and laid down a pretty good lap. He's 12th on the board right now at 28.64, so that's just over 3/10 behind Jimmy Johnson's leading time.
Montoya has only one top 10 finish here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, that coming back in May when he finished 8th.
Yeah, you've seen this year, though, you can take all those stats for Montoya in the past and throw them away because he is rewriting all of that this year, and especially in the chase.
6 top 5 finishes and 4 in a row, as you said, Andy, in the chase. Here is awesome Bill Elliott. Turned 54 about a week and a half ago. And he's excited not only to be here, but I got a chance to talk with Lynn and Eddie Wood last night at the Hall of Fame induction, and they were pumped because they are so excited to get the Wood Brothers team back on the racetrack. They will also run, by the way, Texas and Homestead, the other 1.5-mile tracks. Kevin Harvick in the 29 car. Remember how well he ran at this sister track when we were at Atlanta a few weeks ago. Led 66 laps and finished second.
Yeah, boy, I say these tracks do look similar when you pull into them in the grandstands and the garage areas, but they are so totally different right now as far as the track surface. Atlanta has got so much abrasion and it's worn out so much, and the tires just fall
really
off.
good. I mean, I don't know what to tell you to do.
But this track has got a ton of grip. You can see 190-mile-an-hour speeds in practice. This track is so different in terms of grip.
Yeah, you see here Kevin likes his race car. They're only 3/10 off of the quickest speed out there. He's in that 12th spot now, but he doesn't really know what he could do to make it go faster.
So he'll come down pit road, and why don't we ride along with the 11 car. Denny Hamlin, we told you that Denny, although he was having a good run and probably could have had a 3rd or 4th place finish, was involved in that late shunt and trying to protect his position at California, caught the front of the pit wall and came home with a DNF, a 37th place finish, which cost him 3 spots in the points.
Yeah, he moves up to 13th with that lap, 28.61.
And you really have to admire Denny. He stood up last week, the interview right after things happened, and said that he made a mistake. And the thing that I would say to Denny Hamlin, hey, buddy, you're in a lot of company whenever it comes to really great race drivers making errors. Everybody's done it, and it's going to happen. The thing that you have to do is learn from those and rebound from them, and I think Denny's going to do that. He'll come out here and have a good race this weekend, I'm quite certain.
He's done well at Charlotte, particularly when he first came here. The first 4 starts at Charlotte, he had 3 top 10s. In fact, his best finish was his first time he came here. It was 8th back in 2005. He hasn't been so lucky the last 4 times he has come to Lowe's Motor Speedway. A lot of work still going on back in the garage area. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series guys having about an hour of practice, and most of them are working on qualifying setup. Jeff Gordon has come a long way in the last 3 races in the chase. He's gone from 10th to 5th in the point standings, back-to-back runner-up finishes, finishing 2nd at Kansas and last week at California. I'd like to be able to get a win and maybe move in on this guy, his teammate, who right now sits atop the points by 12 points over Mark Martin. Let's go down to the Ryan Newman garage. Dave.
Going back out for his 3rd run, Doc. The first 2 were on the same set of tires. And to try to get some clearance here in the garage area. It's a little tight backing up. On the same set of tires the first 2 runs, and security getting into the corner was what he was looking for. With 8 poles here, you know how Ryan can hang it on the ragged edge for qualifying. So when he needs a little bit of security getting into the corner, I think they need to pay attention. So just a little bit loose for the 39. This will be on a new set of sticker tires. That was another question. Ryan, what do you think? Scuffs or stickers? He said, I'll let you know this run.
I've always said there's no tire like a new tire. But sometimes when this track is like it is now, it's kind of green and cold, scuff tire might actually be a little bit faster.
On the racetrack, here is the famous number 43, and of course made famous by the king, the all-time winningest driver in stock car history, Richard Petty. And last night, I was honored to be a part of the voting committee representing ESPN and ABC as Richard Petty was inducted into the inaugural class for the Hall of Fame. Bill Prance Sr., Bill Prance Jr., the king Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and legendary driver / car owner Junior Johnson, the first class. And being there and seeing, I think the king even got a little emotional last night as they were showing his picture and calling his name, because how special is it to go in the very first ever class in the NASCAR Hall of Fame?
That's a big deal. I mean, this is going to be something great. And I saw the thing on Petty. He acted like it was another win. He said, now I feel like I've got 201 wins instead of 200 because that just felt like winning a race to be included in that first 5.
Yeah, I think it's something great, too, that we can give a little something back to Richard Petty that has given his whole life, and that family has to this sport to help it to grow and being probably the most popular figure that we've ever had in this sport. So congratulations to Richard and everyone else and their families for their induction in that first class.
And the voting was very close. I mean, with David Pearson and Cale Yarborough and Bobby Allison right there on the cusp. They will not divulge the total vote counts, but they did tell me last night when we were there, the folks that counted the votes, that it was very, very close. And I was a part of the committee. It was very tough to try to pick 5 people. It could have been 10 or 11 that could have easily gone in the first-year class.
A very exclusive class, that first 5. Just to follow up on Ryan Newman, he did run just a little bit quicker on that sticker run. Ran about 300 or 400 quicker.
Yeah, he got a little closer to that front guy, but the top guy's changed. Greg Biffle's gone out there. We saw him earlier. He was the first guy on the racetrack. And now Jimmy Johnson's reclaimed that by quite a bit.
28:05, brother.
Wow, that says it all right there, Chad.
Man,
what's Jimmy saying? Not
experienced something like that before.
It's 192.5 miles an hour.
That's kind of the way these guys go about it. You go show your best, and then I'm going to show you what we've got next, and they just keep hanging on for a little bit more.
It's like Jimmy saying, not in my house, you don't. Shannon.
How much fun are Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus having right now? Like you said, this is their house. They've won so many races here, and that car is flat out flying right now. On the first run, Jimmy Johnson had one word to say about the 48 car, and that was just awesome. As you see Chad Knaus walking back to the garage, waiting for his driver. Man, you see that swagger. They know where they are. They're on top of the points, and they're in Lowe's Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Well, we heard Mark Martin say a while ago that he didn't really want to run another lap
Andy, we're
in
done,
qualifying
bud. We're
trim.
done, Jimmy, we're done.
Unless somebody went out there and ran a flat. Well, guess what, Mark? Somebody did.
Yeah, I thought that car looks. When I watched that 48 car the first time, I thought it looked so good I could go qualified. So that thing looked like it was really glued to the racetrack, and Jimmy looked like his foot's got stuck on the throttle too this next time out. But all of the Hendrick cars once again are up there. They're all in the top 8 of the speeds right now. So that's 4 of them in the top 8.
Now, don't sell yourself short, DJ. You're a 3-time winner here at this racetrack and have had a very good career.
I don't think I sat on any poles here, though. That takes a difference. You've got to have a little different mindset and setup in you to go do that.
Jimmy Johnson, big smile when he comes in, and I think when you saw the swagger and the smile on Chad Knaus's face, you knew they were ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, he says, get you some of that, boys.
Well, can somebody go out and get the best time in speed? Remember, this is the practice session coming up later tonight. We will be here live as we'll have the NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice coming up next. And then after that, we are going to have live coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying. So we're going to find out all in one evening who's got the best of the best and who can put it on when it comes time to line them up and qualify.
Having a lot of fun, these guys are.
It's an extremely long day for these crew guys as I watch them keep performing. They've been out here a long time, since earlier today, getting their cars through inspection, sitting around waiting to see if they were going to get to do anything. When your car goes out there and performs, you don't mind working on it a little longer, do you, Andy?
Now I get a little swagger in your step, just like we saw with Chad Knaus.
Let's go out to a former racetrack winner here at Charlotte. There's the former champion, Bobby Labonte. He won this race here back in 2000 when he went on to win the championship.
You know, we've said for a long time, we go back to Indianapolis and talk about how many drivers and teams that win the Brickyard 400 going to win the championship. But I think this has always been a good benchmark, too, as to where your team stands. And that's very obvious with the way Jimmy Johnson and his team perform. But if you can perform well at this racetrack, I think you've got your team where it needs to be in championship form.
Here's rookie Scott Speed, and let's see how he can do. His teammate, the Chaser, been struggling a little bit. Brian Vickers right now 37th on the speed chart. Let's see what Scott can do.
Yeah, Scott Speed's 18th on the practice sheet so far, and he has qualified better of late. He just hasn't raced as well. He's out-qualified his teammate a couple of times here in the last few races of Brian Vickers. And, you know, Brian seems to struggle in qualifying trim here lately, but races better.
He's still really new to this type of racing, and he's shown that he's able to go fast, just as you said, but trying to get your car set up for 400- and 500-mile races takes a little different mindset too. As we see Jeff Gordon here just goes out and runs a little faster lap. He's 5th on the speed chart now.
These Hendrick guys are having fun out there putting laps up. Let's see what Jeff comes in now 5th overall, and we'll go in and make some adjustments. Let's see what cousin Carl can do. Carl Edwards out here trying to get his Ford up in the top 10 in speed.
Right now he is 36. You almost have to think he would be in race trim to be that far back. I can't imagine he would be that far back if he was in qualifying trim.
Yeah, the only thing we don't see a lot of laps on the board is he's only been out there for 5 laps before he completes this one.
Talked about the fact that he has not had a win this year, and we are getting confirmation in the garage area that he is in qualifying trim. We'll see if this lap here does make a difference. He picks it up somewhat.
We saw some of this at New Hampshire. He was in the high 30s in practice, went out there and qualified in the top 5.
Well, when they did that, they said they got some information from Biffle's team, and Biffle's sitting there. Now he's just been bumped back to 3rd as Mark Martin goes into that 2nd spot. He did go back out there and run again.
They were talking about how Biffle's team and some of the other Roush Fenway guys had made some adjustments on the new bump stop that they were using, and it made a huge difference. In fact, Biffle used it at Kansas and went out there and just dominated the race, and you know, had a good run, led 113 laps to finish 3rd. So maybe the Roush Fenway guys are starting to really catch up and catch on to something here. Biffle right now being shown 3rd overall on the speed chart. Chasing these guys, Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson. We invite you to join us under the lights here at Lowe's Motor Speedway for live flag-to-flag coverage of NASCAR Banking 500, only from Bank of America. Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ABC, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Sentimental favorite Mark Martin is a 3-time winner at this racetrack in the fall race. That ties in with Bobby Allison and Cale Yarborough, a couple of legendary drivers. Can Mark Martin do it again as he tries to now hunt down points leader Jimmy Johnson? Final minutes of this practice session. Let's check in the garage area with Shannon.
Juan Pablo Montoya not happy with his setup right now. He brought it in before that last run. They changed the entire thing. He said, listen, guys, we can qualify the way it is and we'll qualify 25th, or we can make some changes and try to get up front. But with the damage on the front of this car and the setup not being right, it's been a very eventful half hour for this 42 team. Dave?
Shannon, the 9 car of Casey Kane was as high as 6th on the board earlier, and they made their biggest gains when they shifted the truck arms underneath the car and changed the balance of that car just a little bit. Picked up about 3/10 when they made that change. But on the final run that Casey made before he parked it for this session, the car was still a little bit too tight getting into the corner. Remember, Newman's problem was security getting in a little bit too loose. Casey had the opposite problem, and they'll have to correct that as they go out to make their qualifying run later tonight, right here on ESPN2.
Thanks, guys. So a lot of work to go on down in the garage area. You think you're good, and suddenly you're not real good, and then suddenly you make a change and you're pretty bad. So that then you get real nervous because you know you got just a minute or so left, and you got to qualify next time you're on the racetrack.
You think you're good, and then somebody goes out there and runs quite a bit faster and makes you realize you're not quite as good as you thought you were.
Why do they do that? I guess it's called racing. Here's Max Pappas trying to get his Toyota dialed in.
Yeah, he needs to pick it up, though. He's 43rd. It's about a second, just about a second off of Jimmy Johnson's time.
Max's best qualifying effort of the year came last week at California Auto Club Speedway, where he qualified 15th. His best finish of the year was 8th at Watkins Glen. This would be his 13th start of the season. Red and black flags being waved, signifying the fact that this practice session, the only practice session for the NASCAR Sprint Cup cars prior to qualifying, and we will have happy hour coming your way tomorrow. But this session is over. Now these guys will go back to the garage area and see if indeed they've got anything for those guys at the top of the list there, Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin.
Yeah, you see Clint Boyer actually jumped up right there at the end. He's actually third quickest.
How about some of the guys in the chase that have some work to do? Carl Edwards and Brian Vickers, guys, 36th and 38th right now in this session. And, boy, that's got to worry. If you're those guys and you know you got to go back on the racetrack.
Greg Biffle, and they're going to sit down and say, okay, what have you got? Compare notes. And if it's quite a bit different, they're going to just throw all that stuff in his car and then go out there and see what they can get.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying. When we come back, Marty and Rusty with the Nationwide Cars.